Hi, everyone. We're so glad that you could join us again at socialstage.com for one of our webinars. Today we have with us Dr. Aaron Willis, and Dr. Willis is our Chief Learning Officer for the company, and always a treat to have him share his knowledge about Active Classroom and the resources that we have available there. So, Dr. Willis, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And if you would, we're just going to turn it over to you and let you share some of these wonderful resources with us today about psychology and sociology.
Pam, thanks very much for that introduction, and really glad that all of you could join us today to hear about our latest offerings in psychology and sociology. All of this content was added just a couple of months ago in Active Classroom, and we're building it up, and at the end I'll explain we've even got more content that's going to be added to it for the fall, but we wanted to give all of you an opportunity to look and see what's new and how we've organized it to make it really easy to access in Active Classroom. So I'm going to say goodbye for now in the video, and we'll turn it over to the screen, and let me go over here to Active Classroom. So now I'm in the Active Classroom interface, and we're going to go to the nice thing about the psychology and sociology is that we set these up as curriculum maps. So I've gone here to my curriculum maps tab, and all districts should have the link for the psychology and sociology curriculum maps. We'll go in here and click on psychology, and that takes us in, and we have 15 major categories that are part of the psychology curriculum. And so you can see all of these things, beginning with things like introduction, going to research methods, all sorts of fun things like states of consciousness and infancy and childhood, all the major categories that come out of the national standards from the American Psychological Association. Today I'm going to focus a little bit on research methods, just as a way to illustrate one particular section. So for those of you that are familiar with Active Classroom, you can see that we've done something a little different here. Usually we have a very general search that'll take you in, and you can find a variety of different resources on a topic. You assign them to your students, or you go in and you'll find an activity set where you can select what's there. We've divided the resources here for you into core content and supplemental content. So all the core content is going to include always a reading, a video, sometimes a PowerPoint or another type of activity. And then the supplementary content is also going to include additional activities, additional readings, and sometimes additional PowerPoints or other media that are available for that content. And so we've set this up so that it's really easy for you to implement this as a course or to match it up with whatever resources you're using to teach. You may have, you know, if you're doing AP, you might have the Myers textbook that you're using. So easily you can see how these things fit in. With the research methods, here's the reading that we have available. And these readings are pretty accessible. They begin with key vocabulary to go through. We talk a little bit here about the scientific method. And then you've got individual sections here where students are able to read through. And I'm just going to scroll up here. You can see that the sections are nicely chunked, so not to be overwhelming to students. We've got about 6 or 7 paragraphs here, and then you're done, and you go on to things like here's the data gathering methods. And then all of these readings ultimately culminate in a test your knowledge type of quiz. I'm in the teacher mode here, so I'm seeing what the correct answers are. They're highlighted for me, but the students, of course, would get true, false, and they'd have to select these. And then, of course, these true, false questions are auto-graded by the system. So it's a quick way to test student retention of the knowledge that they've just read. Now, in addition, if I wanted to assign just one section or 1 or 2 of these readings, I can click here and go to our assignment modal window. And instead of assigning this whole reading, I can come in here and say, you know, I just want the students to read the section on objectivity, sampling, and data gathering methods. that'll be enough for them to cover. Maybe this is an assignment for them to do overnight and come to class prepared to talk about it. I select my class that I'm going to assign that to, and then go ahead and save that assignment. If we don't remember whether we want to include a section or not, you can always, and this applies not just to psychology, but everywhere in active classroom, I want to learn more. What is that quantification again? And I click on it, and it comes up, and that reading is actually presented for me. Oh yeah, that's good, but I don't want the students to get into that, so I think I'll just assign them these three. But you can always, whenever you're in the assignment window, you can click on any of these categories. You can select only certain sections to assign, or you can always see what's there and what's the content that you are assigning. So that gives you some additional functionality, and that is what we've got here for the reading. If I go back to the curriculum map, we've also included videos. All of these are based on these really quite informative videos that involves interviews with experts in the field. The video clips are usually about 28 minutes long and come with a set of assessment questions. I think in this case there's 10 assessment questions, and you can see the answers are included here for the students. So this is a wonderful way to engage them with highly visual content, and yet also to be able to assess their understanding. This can of course be blown up and shown as full screen, so we could show this to in a whole class situation, or it can be the type of thing that students are able to watch on their own, anything from their on a laptop or even on a smartphone. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of how students are able to access that content. Once again, all of the videos are about 28 minutes long, and they take up the key questions here, and they've got charts and all sorts of things to keep the students interested. Now, in addition to the readings and the videos, we also have these psychology PowerPoints. And let me see if I've got, I don't have, here it is. And let me go to full screen on this for you. So here is our series on famous psychology experiments, and these have all the basics you need to cover an introduction to this topic visually in the PowerPoint presentation. And here we're trying to assess whether watching scary movies gives us nightmares at night. And so we're going to create an experiment in order to answer that question. And we've got independent variables and dependent variables and all of these types of things. So these are really nice. They're highly visual, and you've got lots of great examples. And then down below, when you're in teacher mode, you get the a script, or basically an explanation of everything that's happening on that slide. So it gives you all the background that you need to be able to present that content to your students. Obviously, we recommend reviewing that ahead of time so that you are more fluid as you work through the slides. But every one of the slides you're going to see is going to have detailed information about what we're representing here. So this is a great way to get going, to have another way to introduce this subject. This is quite extensive, 86 slides, so you can decide for yourself which of those slides make most sense for you to be able to use in that context. Okay, so those are our core activities for the week on research methods. And then in addition, we've got different types of activities. So here's a sort of an activity that the students can do on creating a controlled experiment. And you've got an extensive teacher's guide here that talks about how to implement it. You've got sort of a pre-test here to get the students thinking about these types of things before you're actually having them dig in and go through that. And then you get into some more detailed information. And all of these have instructions to the students and questions that they're answering based on the readings or the prompts that are above. So this is a great way to be able to extend that learning and be able to offer students additional content on that particular topic. And so we're always going to be offering you additional topics there. Okay, so that's a basic introduction to what we have available in psychology. Once again, we've got all of these major categories: states of consciousness, social psychology, personality, abnormal psychology. So everything that meets the core of what you would cover in a psychology course. Let's go back here to the sociology and take a quick look at that. I'm going back to my curriculum maps, finding sociology. And then here also, we have a number of the major categories, and you just click on one and it'll open up for you. Here, let's take a look at socialization. Once again, we have a core reading that gets us started. So here's the socialization reading with some clear background information, why socialization matters, nature versus nurture, with some nice examples, in this case, a real life example. Okay. And then each of these readings ends with a multiple choice quiz. In this case, I think there's 10, or actually this one has more, 16 questions. So we're able to assess reading just like we had with the psychology resources. So we've got both the review and then the multiple choice quiz. So a great way to introduce students to the readings and to bring them on board there. Also, videos. These videos are additionally about 28 minutes long, and you've got some background information here, socialization, and then we go to the video itself, and then there are assessment questions that go along with the video. In this case, there's 5 assessment questions that go along with the video. And we can launch this, and as with psychology, we can go to full screen if we need to, and we can zoom ahead to specific sections if you've got a place that you want to feature. You can always turn on or off the closed caption. So highly visual way to engage the students with the content. And in addition, we do have activities like this one. This one is I, me, and the generalized other, reflecting on who we are in relation to other people. Of course, very critical in terms of socialization. And then I like this one because it sets up different vignettes where the students take on, they roll a dice, they take on a personality, and then they roll the dice and they take on a situation, and then they create a vignette where they go through, and then there's questions that they respond to. And this can be done whole class or in small groups. So you've got a lot of flexibility there in terms of how you implement this type of activity. So in addition, we've got the supplementary content, and in this case, we've got here an extra reading on adolescence. I can't control my kid. Boy, we've all been there, and you guys as teachers probably know what that's like. And so here is this activity, role-playing parent-adolescent relationships. So really a lot of different ways of engaging your students with this content, from the role plays, the self-reflections, the videos to watch, the readings and the quizzes to assess the reading content. Really gives you a lot of the great basics in order to get up and running with both the psychology and the sociology resources. Now that said, what we're also very excited about is what's coming next, and that is we're adding additional content to both the sociology and the psychology resources. We've got 15 new chapters of text that's sort of AP level that's going to be added, and then we're going to take the understanding psychology, which are the readings that are there now, and those are going to become sort of a supplemental reading at a lower level. So we're going to have 2 levels of readings for psychology in the fall. We're also adding quizzes for all of the main topics. So you'll have, in addition to the video, the reading, and the PowerPoints or the section activities, you'll also have a summative quiz for every one of those sections. We're also adding debates in psychology to a number of different sections, and those debates will be things that students can engage in. Once again, giving you another mode of students to learn about things, to actually engage in controversies and challenges where scholars don't necessarily agree, and students get to explore that through the debate format. With sociology, we're really excited. We're adding 22 new videos to the sociology section. Those have been produced in 2018, so they're current and up to date, and we think that's really important because there's some of the categories are on gender and sexuality, or family and family relationships, and I think that we really need a contemporary perspective. You can't just have something that's a few years old on that. Things and norms have been changing so much. It's really important to have that contemporary insight, and all of those new videos are going to be coming online in the fall. They also have some assessments that are associated with them and some quizzes. In addition, we're having revised assessments added for the psychology PowerPoints and videos, and that's going to give you a lot more assessment options. The assessments that we're going to be adding for psychology are going to be interactive. So you might see if the students are needing to understand the parts of the human brain, they'll see a schematic of the human brain and they'll get to label the different parts. So they'll have an interactive way of assessing their work as opposed to just responding to multiple choice questions. So we're really excited about all of those resources, and that really covers our introduction to psychology and sociology. We wanted to give you something quick and then open it up to your questions. So if there are any questions, we're willing to field those. I will unmute all participants. So if you've got a microphone, you can try that. And if we can't hear you, then please use the chat area to type in your questions. Let me just go up here to the area to unmute us. And so everybody's now been unmuted. If you have any questions, please either type them into the chat or just speak into your microphone.